And now as we feel very mundane and untalented as grown-ups who cannot play chess like that. No, absolutely inspiring stuff. Thank you so much. Ladies, how cool is that? That's like really backing a
11
buddy.
years old.
Love that, man. Absolutely cool stuff. So we're going to shift gears now and consider children and parents in the same breath. Maybe you as a parent are finding it very hard to say goodbye to your child or leave them in the company of somebody else without them bursting into tears and clinging to you, or you clinging to them. Maybe it goes both ways. Well, you're not alone. Many children go through this phase and experience what is called separation anxiety. So we've invited our friend and family therapist and registered social worker, King Averance, to join us to help us to empathise, because this is something that every parent goes through, Kim.
Every parent.
And I felt it. I was going to say, like, oh, why is a child crying? But I bawled my eyes out when I had to say goodbye to my beautiful family for just 3 weeks. And that nearly broke me, so I understand.
No, absolutely. Just a few weeks ago, it was the first time that we went to Eswatini for that, like, 2 weeks as well.
Yeah.
It was the first time leaving Babaki as well. It is so intense. But what exactly is separation anxiety?
So, to sum it up, it's basically when a child goes through a phase of feeling very fearful when their primary caregiver leaves. So as children grow up, they start to learn, okay, I have somebody who's very consistent in my life, who always meets my needs and who loves me, like, consistently. And now then that person disappears. And children have no concept of time. So even though you know you're coming back, they don't know when. So it just naturally causes feelings of anxiety in a child. And they do become fearful, which is where the heavy crying comes from and the clinginess. So that there are different kind of phases to separation anxiety.
We experienced it taking our little one to creche. It was obviously the first real, and I think most parents will go through that gateway, but it was amazing, literally 10 seconds after we've left, he's fine.
They usually are.
You know, so you can kind of see where that gateway really exists. But at what age does separation anxiety really kick in? When do they become self-aware enough or aware enough of the situation for it to kick in?
So after about 6 months, so we look at about the 8 to 9 month mark is when they are really aware, okay, these are the people who are around me, and now this person's not here anymore, this is weird. And then it kind of takes a peak as they become toddlers, so as they get up to the 3-year mark. Around 18 months is usually when we find parents say it really starts to escalate.
Okay.
So, yeah, there is hope. It doesn't last forever, but the thing with separation anxiety is that it ebbs and it flows. So it changes according to the child's developmental phase and also what's happening in the environment. These are all contributing factors. So by the time the child's about 6, we really would ideally like to see it settling down, because now they're entering school. If it's still there, then we obviously have some other worries around that. But usually about 8 months, you start to see it rearing its head.
No, absolutely. But now, where does this behavior actually come from? Like, can we pinpoint it? Like, this is where it's coming from. Where does it come from?
It's really hard to say this is exactly how it happens. So it's a phase that a child has to go through, and it's very normal. The good side, before we look at, I suppose, what contributes to it, is that when we see a child who is unwilling to leave their carer, it's actually a good thing. It means...
I want my child to miss me when they go, man.
It means that they've developed a really good attachment towards you. But some of the things that can impact it can be perhaps your child's had to stay in hospital. They've had a traumatic event.
Kind of heightened states.
So really
trauma,
stressful, traumatic events, the death of a loved one. Never underestimate the death of a pet for a child as well.
Or parents,
yeah, absolutely. So even if somebody's moving into the house, somebody's moving out of the house.
Can we transfer our anxiety
That's
to our child?
That's the next bit. Yeah, we can. We absolutely can. So if none of the environmental factors, is relevant for you and your child, then I always say to parents, we've got to look at ourselves then. Are you anxious when you leave your child? Because if the answer is yes, guess what? Your child's going to feel anxious as well when watching you leave, because the atmosphere in the home, especially if your child doesn't have their vocabulary yet, can be quite fearful for a child and worrying for them.
So we haven't quite gotten on to what we can do about it, how we can preempt it, but I think most parents right now are thinking about, is it me? Is it my child? But we are talking about separation anxiety, something that every parent and every child have to go through. So we will give you some practical tips on how you can preempt that situation and deal with it, soften the blow just a little bit. After the break, we'll continue our discussion with Kim.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Oh, it's on.
really hope she beats him, though. Like, imagine, on live TV.
To be honest, I don't think he stands a chance. He looks so honoured. Matle, a young chess champion in the making, grandmaster in the making, I'll say.
Amazing. But now, just before the break, we were speaking to Kim. Early in the show, a family therapist and registered social worker, Kim Abrams, joined us to shed some light on why children experience separation anxiety. Now, she's back with us to offer advice as to how parents can better handle these unavoidable developmental moments.
Yeah.
So, what exactly is signs of separation anxiety? Before we get into the tips, but what are some signs that parents can look out for with regards to separation anxiety?
So I suppose when your baby is about, you know, in the toddler year time, there's the really intense crying, the physical clinginess, so they find it really difficult to be physically separated from you, and that can be quite hard so as a parent to have to endure. As they become a bit older and they're still struggling with it, you might see this is the child who often complains of headaches and tummy aches when it's a school day.
Teachers being mean to me.
Yeah, teachers being mean, nobody likes me, any kind of reason to stay at school. Some of the reasons are very valid, so we always take what children say for what it is, but if it's become a frequent occurrence, then it might be them wanting to stay with their caregiver. Perhaps they're bedwetting as well. That's also a big one that
Really?
we look out for.
Okay.
Yeah, especially if it's come out of the blue. And also children who struggle to settle in their bed by themselves, so they need their caregiver with them all the
so
time.
that can actually transfer to that. Okay.
Yeah, that can also be some of the signs of separation anxiety.
Okay, so now that we've identified what we're going through, how do we address it? Is there a way that we can preemptively start dealing with separation anxiety before it escalates to become a real problem?
The good news is yes, you can. You absolutely can, especially if your child is very young. So before they've reached that 3-year age mark. Peekaboo is a fantastic game to play with a baby because what you're actually teaching them is I'm here 1 minute and then I can come back.
Okay.
Because children, it's
But then you must come back.
You must come back. You must come back. Don't leave your baby unsupervised. So play peekaboo. Also, then escalate it up to hide and seek, so that children start to learn. Okay, my caregiver leaves, but they actually come back. But if you're dealing with it now and your child is older, I would say, you know, try to encourage your child to take an object with them from home that's comforting for them, something that they can carry around with them, especially if they're going to nursery or reception, just to help ease them into the environment.
Just make it feel normal.
Yeah, just make it feel normal. The point is you want to teach your child that you leaving is not the end of the world. But if you are anxious about it and creating a scene about it and then it becomes an event, your child's going to think there's something to be worried about. So it's a very fine balance, but there's also, you know, you feel guilty as a parent to watch your child in distress.
Yeah.
But what we have to accept...
Like prying your child off
really
you to leave them with someone else's stuff.
It's really horrible, but it's a stage that they have to go through. Some children don't at all, but when they do, we actually look at it from a positive angle, that actually the child's developed a secure attachment with you as their carer, so they don't want to leave you. That's a good thing.
Oh, I love that. Any major mistakes that parents often make in this space?
So there are 2 major mistakes parents often make, and that is making the goodbye an event. So it's like, don't worry, everything will be fine, constantly coming back to hug them and kiss them. And, you know, the child then will think there's something going on and there's something, and there's something to fear. So, and usually that stems from a parent's own place of anxiety. So we have to be very mindful that you are creating a routine when it's time for you to leave. So create a little goodbye for them. So see you later, alligator, and do a special handshake with them or a special hug. Yeah, and make it something that you do when it's time to leave. So don't make an event about it, and also don't sneak away from them. So
Don't?
No.
Okay.
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Don't sneak out. You know, obviously you're not going to want to wake them to now say goodbye if they are settled in their sleep, but children must learn that goodbyes happen, and it's not going to break their world. So sometimes it's easier for parents to sneak away because it's easier to not have to deal with but it's not in the child's best interest. That children need to go through that period of distress in order to become used to you leaving and then coming back. It does get better.
So basically, Jamie, what I've discerned from all of this is that the problem is completely with the parent. The child is actually just going to go through this regardless, and parents, you need to check yourself, before you lose it, which I know is very difficult. I speak with absolute empathy here because I've had to say goodbye to my little one, go through this very gateway right now, and it can be tough. We know, but there is no better feeling, I'll tell you, when you get reunited with that little one and they charge across the creche and they cling to you. It's absolutely beautiful. Kim, thank you so much. That's been really, really helpful. Thank you so much.
You.